I'm 31 now, and I still sleep with my bedroom door locked every Christmas Eve. I know how that sounds. I know it sounds stupid, especially considering I live alone in a second floor apartment, and the only thing outside my door is a narrow hallway and a neighbor who smells like cigarettes. But every year, right around midnight on December 24th, my body remembers something my brain wishes it could forget. I was 8 years old when it happened. Old enough to know Santa wasn't real, but young enough to pretend I didn't, because pretending meant presents still showed up under the tree. My parents thought I believed. I let them think that. It made things easier. Christmas Eve in our house was always quiet. My dad was strict about it. No TV past 10, lights off, everyone in bed. He said Santa didn't come to houses where people stayed awake, but really, I think he just wanted one night a year where nothing needed him. Our house wasn't big. Small 2 stories, creaky wood floors, thin walls. My bedroom was at the end of the hallway, directly across from my parents' room. If someone so much as opened the fridge, you'd hear it. That night I remember waking up because my mouth was dry. I rolled onto my side and stared at my alarm clock. It was 2:17 a.m. That's when I heard something downstairs. At first I smiled, because even at 8 years old, some part of me wanted it to be real. It sounded like fabric brushing against cardboard. A soft thump, then another. Like someone was trying not to make noise but didn't fully understand how loud silence really is. I remember pulling my blanket up to my chin and holding my breath. Santa. That's what my brain gave me. The only explanation it had ready. I crept out of bed and cracked my door open just enough to peek into the hallway. The nightlight near the bathroom cast long shadows across the floor. Everything was still. Then I heard it again. Downstairs, closer this time, a faint jingling sound. In that moment, I actually smiled. I did exactly what you're not supposed to do. I leaned forward, pressing my ear to the doorframe, trying to hear more. I wanted proof. I wanted a story to tell kids at school. I honestly wanted to be special. The sound moved slowly across the living room. Something slid and then something scraped lightly against the hard wood. Then came the noise that made my heart skip. A low, muffled grunt. It didn't register as wrong at first. Adults made noises. Santa was old and old people groaned when they bent down. That's when I heard my dad's door open. It wasn't loud, just the soft click of the handle and faint creak of the hinges. I peeked again and saw him step into the hallway barefoot, wearing the same gray t-shirt he slept in every night. "Did you hear that?" my mom whispered from the bed. "Yeah," he said quietly. He stood still for a second, listening. The house was silent again. I remember thinking he was going to ruin it, that he was going to scare Santa away. He took one step towards the stairs. That's when the noise downstairs stopped completely. Not faded or moved away, it completely stopped. My dad froze. I didn't understand why at the time, but now I do. Whatever was down there was listening. My dad whispered my name. I didn't answer. He whispered again, louder this time. "Stay in your room," he said. "Both of you." I watched him reach into the hall closet and pull out the aluminum baseball bat he kept there just in case. I'd never seen him take it out before, not once. He moved down the hallway slowly. Each step was really careful. When he reached the top of the stairs, he paused again. From where I stood, I could see the faint glow of Christmas tree lights downstairs, blinking softly against the walls, red, green, blue. Then I saw movement. A shape passed between the lights and the wall. It was big and slow. My brain still tried to call it Santa, red suit, big belly. That's what I wanted to see, and that's what I needed to see. My dad went down the stairs. The sound of the bat hitting the banister as he adjusted the grip made me flinch. He reached the bottom step and turned the corner into the living room. I couldn't see him anymore. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then I heard a voice. Not cheerful, not deep and jolly. It was low and strained. "Easy. Easy now," the voice said. My dad didn't respond. There was a sound like something heavy being set down. Then my dad spoke. "What the are you doing in my house?" The voice laughed. Not a Santa laugh. A breathy, nervous sound like someone trying to keep calm. "Just do my job," the man said. That's when I finally understood something was wrong. I crept out of my room and leaned over the banister, peering down into the living room. I wish I hadn't. The man was wearing a Santa suit, but it wasn't the clean, bright red kind from the mall. It was darker, faded. The white trim was gray with dirt. The beard was crooked, hanging off one ear, revealing stubble underneath. His hat was pulled low, shadowing his face. He was kneeling by the tree, stuffing presents into a large black garbage bag. Our presents, every single one of them. My dad stood a few feet away, bat raised. My dad told him to put the bag down. The man didn't look at him. He said, "I'm almost done, just let me finish." My dad told him to leave right now. The man finally turned his head. I saw his face. It wasn't old, it was a kind, His eyes were wide and bloodshot. His mouth twitched beneath the fake beard. He smelled bad. Even from upstairs I could smell him. Like sweat and something sour. The man said, "You woke up. You weren't supposed to wake up." Almost in a disappointed tone. My dad finally said, "That's enough. Put it down or I swear." The man stood up. He was taller than my dad. He dropped the bag of presents on the floor. "That's not nice. I worked hard for these," the man said. My dad told him they weren't his. And the man said, "They are now." Then everything happened at once. The man lunged forward. My dad swung the bat. It connected with a loud crack that echoed through the house. The man stumbled back, crashing into the coffee table. Ornaments were shattered, glass flying across the floor. I heard my mom scream. Then I screamed, out of instinct. The man recovered faster than I thought was possible. He grabbed the bag and bolted toward the back door. My dad chased him, slipping on wrapping paper, nearly falling. He busted the door open fast. The cold air started flooding in. The man was gone, just like that. My dad locked the door and leaned against it. His hands were shaking so badly he dropped the bat. The house was silent except for the blinking tree lights and my mom's quiet sobbing. The police came, they took statements, they dusted for prints. They asked questions I didn't understand. The officer crouched in front of me and asked if I'd seen the man's face. I said yeah. He asked me if I thought the man was Santa, and I said yeah. The officer's expression changed just slightly. He looked at my dad. My dad didn't say anything. We didn't have Christmas that year. The tree came down the next morning. The broken ornaments were swept up and thrown away. The space under the tree stayed empty. My dad installed deadbolts on every door, motion lights outside, and an alarm system. For a year I thought that was the end of it. I thought it was just a break-in, a desperate man in a costume. Until I was 15. That's when my dad finally told me the rest. He sat me down at the kitchen table. "The police caught him," he said. I felt a strange sense of relief. He told me they found him 2 blocks away, still in the suit and still carrying the bag. He also told me they found other things in the bag. Not just presents, there was stuff from other houses. He'd been doing it for years apparently, breaking in on Christmas Eve, wearing the suit, targeting houses with kids. A disturbing part was they found duct tape and zip ties. They also found a list of addresses, times, notes, and unfortunately our house was just on that list. When my dad told me that, I didn't really sleep that night. I still don't sleep well on Christmas Eve, honestly. I remember how close I came to believing in something that wanted to take everything from us. I've told parts of this story before, usually when people are talking about bad holidays or creepy places they've stayed. I never tell the whole thing in one go, and mostly because it takes a while to explain, and partly because it makes me uncomfortable to think about how normal everything felt while it was happening. At the time, I didn't think we were in danger. None of us did. That's kind of the problem. If something obviously threatening had happened early on, we would have left. We would have called the police sooner, we would have changed our plans. Instead, it was just a series of small things that didn't quite line up, spread out over a few days, during a time of year when you're distracted and tired and surrounded by people. It's easy to ignore your instincts when you're trying to not ruin Christmas. This is about 6 years ago. My wife and I had been married less than a year, and this was the first Christmas we were spending with her side of the family instead of mine. It mattered a lot to her. She was close with her parents, and especially with her younger sister Emily. Her parents lived in a rural area, about 40 minutes outside the nearest decent-sized town. When you left the highway, it was nothing but narrow roads, trees on both sides, the occasional mailbox set way back from the pavement. The last stretch was a long gravel driveway that curved slightly before opening up to the house. No streetlights, no visible neighbors. At night, it was the kind of dark where your headlights didn't feel strong enough. When we arrived, the house looked exactly how you'd expect a big family Christmas house to look. Big porch wrapped in white lights, windows glowing warm against the dark. It felt safe in that very specific way childhood homes do, even when they aren't yours. The house itself had been in our family for decades. Old floors that creaked when it got cold, radiators that knocked and hissed at night. It smelled faintly like pine cleaner and whatever had been cooking earlier that day. There was a detached garage off to the left of the house, and farther back near the trees, there was a shed. I remember noticing it when we pulled in because it looked newer than everything else. The wood wasn't as weathered, the roof didn't really sag. It didn't really match. At the time, that observation didn't go anywhere in my head. It was just something I noticed and forgot. The first day was busy in a good way. Family coming and going, aunts and uncles stopping by to drop off kids running through the house, music playing in the background almost constantly. If anything felt off, it was buried under the noise and routine. That night I slept good. The next morning I woke up early. I've always been an early riser, especially in unfamiliar places. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak from the heating system. I went outside to grab something from our car. As soon as I stepped off the porch, the cold hit me hard. But that's when I noticed some footprints. They weren't right up by the house, they were closer to the edge of the property, near where the tree started. They looked like boot prints, spaced evenly apart, running parallel to the house instead of towards it. I remember stopping without really thinking about it. At first I assumed they belonged to my father-in-law. He was always working outside doing something. But the more I looked at them, the more that explanation didn't quite fit. The prints didn't cut across the yard the way you would if you're heading somewhere. They followed the property line, like someone had been walking around it. I stood there longer than I needed to, scanning the trees, even though I knew how ridiculous that was. I didn't actually expect to see anyone. Still, I had this uncomfortable awareness of how exposed I was standing there. Eventually I shook it off and went back inside. Later that day, Emily mentioned something odd about her car. She did it casually, like she was trying not to make it sound important. She said, "I swear someone keeps unlocking it. My glove box is open again this morning." Her dad laughed and told her she probably forgot to lock it. Emily nodded, but she didn't really smile. She didn't push back either, she just let it drop, which stuck with me more than if she'd argued. That night around 10 or 11, the dogs started barking. Not the normal kind, not the alert bark that fades after a minute. This was low and aggressive. Everyone kind of halted what they were doing. Her dad grabbed a flashlight and stepped onto the porch. He swept the beam across the yard, then the driveway, then through the trees, but he saw nothing. After a few minutes, the dogs settled down. People made jokes about deers or coyotes, but the energy in the room didn't really recover. Conversations kept restarting and dying off. The next day, things started stacking up. Emily found her bedroom window unlocked. The motion light near the garage turned on twice during the afternoon, even though no one was outside. When I took the trash out that evening, I noticed the shed door was cracked open. I remember feeling a small spike of irritation, like someone had been careless, because I didn't want anything to get stolen. I closed it and tested the handle afterward to make sure it latched. That night, my wife actually admitted she felt uneasy too. We were lying in bed, the house was really quiet around us. She told me Emily had been acting off for weeks before we arrived, double checking locks, closing curtains earlier than usual, sleeping with her phone under her pillow. She says she's stressed, my wife said, but it feels like more than that. Around 2 in the morning, I woke up to a sound that didn't belong whatsoever. Footsteps. Not inside the house, but outside. I could hear the gravel crunching slowly. They weren't close enough that I could pinpoint exactly where they were, but they were close enough that I knew they were imaginary. The steps moved, stopped, then moved again. I stayed perfectly still, staring into darkness, listening. After maybe 20 seconds, the sound stopped. I didn't wake my wife, I didn't know why. I think part of me was still trying to protect the idea that nothing was wrong. In the morning, Emily looked exhausted. Dark circles around her eyes, she barely touched her coffee. She finally told us she thought someone had been outside her window during the night. She said she heard breathing, not movement, just breathing. Her parents tried to reassure her, but even they didn't sound convinced anymore. That afternoon, her dad called the local sheriff's office. A deputy came out a few hours later and walked the property with him. They found some cigarette butts near the trees, but no one in the house smoked. He also found food wrappers behind the shed. That's when he asked if anyone had been having problems with someone lately. Emily kind of backed off. Then she told us about the guy. She didn't know his name. She noticed him around town over the last couple of months. At the grocery store, at a gas station, once parked across the street from her work. At first she thought it was a coincidence. Small town, same schedules. Then he messaged her online. He told her he liked seeing her around, and that he felt like they were meant to cross paths. She obviously blocked him. But after that, the car stuff started. The deputy told us to lock everything and call immediately if we saw anything else. That night, no one really slept. Around midnight, the motion light near the garage came on, and it stayed on. I looked out to the window and saw a figure near the shed. He wasn't hiding, he wasn't moving, he was just standing there facing the house. By the time her dad got outside with the flashlight, the figure was gone. In the shed they found a sleeping bag and food containers. We obviously called the police to come out. They didn't find anything on our property, but 2 days later, they found him, hiding in the woods less than a mile away. He'd been there longer than any of us wanted to admit. Me and my wife left Christmas morning. I've never gone back to the house. What still gets me isn't what happened, it's how easy it was for someone to be that close without us realizing it. How quiet it was, how normal everything felt until it didn't. That's unfortunately what I think about every Christmas now. I've been in the police force for nearly 20 years now, and most of the calls you respond to over the holidays are either drunk driving, domestic arguments, or some kids breaking a window with a baseball. You learn pretty quickly that people's ideas of chaos around Christmas is usually far less dramatic than they think. That's why this call sticks with me. It wasn't loud or explosive. No one screamed when I got there. It wasn't even obvious at first. But it's the one Christmas shift that still makes me pause every December, no matter how many years have passed. It was the night before Christmas. I was working the graveyard shift downtown, paired with my partner Thompson. He's a good guy, older than me, been on the force longer, quiet, calm. We were just finishing paperwork from a petty theft call when the dispatcher came over the radio. Unit 14, possible burglary in progress. Caller says someone's inside their house, unknown if armed. Advise. We grabbed our coats and headed out. Normally burglary calls at this time of night are either false alarms or mistakes. Kids messing with alarms, someone walking home from a party. But there's a part of you, even after years on the job, that listens to the call and your stomach tightens anyway. There's nothing like a someone's inside your house call on Christmas Eve to get that feeling. The street was quiet when we arrived. Snow had fallen earlier that day, about 3 inches, and it was still drifting down lightly. The house was a 2-story on a corner lot. Typical suburban, holiday lights, a small tree glowing inside the front window, everything looked normal. We approached slowly, Thompson on my left, both of us sweeping the property with our flashlights. The mailbox was still closed, no tire tracks except our own. I noticed the front door was slightly ajar. Not wide open, just enough that someone could slip in or out quietly. That was enough to make my stomach drop. Thompson whispered to stay behind him. I nodded. Neither of us spoke much as we moved up to the door. The inside of the house smelled like pine and cinnamon. A fire was burning softly in the fireplace. At first glance, it looked like a family settled in for Christmas. Then I heard a noise. It was the soft shuffling from the hallway near the stairs. I signaled Thompson. We drew our weapons, which is standard protocol. I moved toward the stairs, Thompson covering the living room. Whoever was in there hadn't noticed us yet. They were focused on something. I could hear it. Slight thumps. It wasn't a robbery in the typical sense. This person wasn't digging through drawers like they were in a hurry. They were slow. That's when it clicked. They weren't looking for money. They were looking for something else. I called out police in a firm voice, loud enough to cut through the tension. Step away from whatever you're touching, I said. The noise stopped immediately. Then I saw the outline of a man standing at the base of the staircase, something in his hands. He didn't run, he didn't yell, he just stood there slightly hunched, staring. The way he froze, it was almost like he expected us, but didn't care. Thompson edged closer from the side and shouted, "Put it down, now!" That's when I noticed a presence. The man was holding a small box wrapped in red paper with a gold bow. There were more scattered around him, and one of the stockings on the fireplace mantel had been pulled off and thrown to the side. He wasn't taking everything, just very specific items, small things. Things that didn't make sense to me at the time. Then the man said, "Please, I just want to see them." He said, almost pleading. His voice was soft, strained, not threatening, but something about it made the hair on my neck stand up. I signaled Thompson to cover the exit and slowly moved closer. "You need to put that down, step away." He didn't move, he just looked at the tree, then back at me. The way he looked, it wasn't angry or desperate, just fixated. And then I noticed his hands, slight tremor, pale, he was sweating despite the cold. Something was clearly wrong with this guy, but I couldn't read it yet. I glanced around, no one else was in the house, at least not visible. The fire crackled, the dog which had been barking a few minutes ago was now silent. I asked him if he lived here. He said no, he said he just wanted to see her. He stopped and shook his head, his eyes darted to the staircase. That's when I realized he was looking at the bedrooms. I don't remember thinking rationally in that moment. My training kicked in, but there was a weird frozen moment of disbelief. A man standing in some on Christmas Eve, not stealing cash, not stealing jewelry, just waiting and watching. I told him, "Sir, you need to come down with us. You need to put the gifts down." He shook his head slowly, muttering something under his breath. Then he bolted toward the back door. Thompson yelled, and we both ran after him. The snow had made the backyard slippery. He slipped once but got up and disappeared behind the fence. I radioed it in immediately, given description and direction. Thompson stayed near the house, making sure no one else was inside or harmed. The neighbor across the street called in a report about a suspicious person seen crouching near the fence a few nights ago. Combine that with the neighbor 2 blocks over saying a man had been peering into their windows at night, and we suddenly had a pattern. It turned out the man had been stalking the homeowner's teenage daughter, not her parents, not the younger kids, specifically her. The presents he was holding weren't random, they were for her. He'd been watching the house for weeks, had mapped out times, entrances, exits. He was not there to rob anyone financially. He was there to, I don't even know how to describe it. To be close, to see what was theirs, what he thought belonged to him. We eventually tracked him down about a mile away, hiding in the woods behind the property. He didn't resist arrest, didn't make a sound, just let us take him into custody. Back at the house, I helped the family calm down, reassure them, explain what had happened. They were visibly shaken, understandably so. The parents kept apologizing to each other, and to me, saying they had no idea. I just nodded. You hear that a lot on calls like this. People assume if it's Christmas, if it's a quiet neighborhood, nothing can happen. You realize quickly that that does not matter. The daughter was okay. She was scared, obviously. Crying, shaking. I remember her voice as she explained how she noticed him before, just small things, like a car parked outside, footsteps around their house, messages she thought were just a random harmless person. She didn't even want anyone to know. She just tried to manage it herself. Most kids do. Most adults underestimate that. That night, nothing seemed normal again. The tree lights glowed faintly outside the wall, ornaments still shimmered, stockings were replaced. But there was a shadow over everything. That's the thing about calls like this. People will clean up the physical mess, but the unease lingers. It hangs over the house in a way you can't see, and it lasts longer than the snow on the driveway. I drove home that morning exhausted. Knowing I wouldn't get a proper sleep, Thompson didn't say much. Just a quiet, Merry Christmas, as we finished paperwork at the station. Both of us knew it wasn't that simple. Every time I passed that house, I'd think about that night. About how normal everything seemed, right until it wasn't. About how easy it is for someone to invade a home and go completely unnoticed until it's almost too late. It was a quiet, uneventful looking night, but for me, it became the one Christmas I can't forget. I was a junior in high school when this happened. I'm in my mid-20s now, and I still think about this every December. Usually when I see those dumb Secret Santa sign-up sheets floating around online and people joking about getting stuck with someone they don't know, I don't joke about it. At the time, I didn't think anything bad would come from it. It was supposed to be harmless. One of those forced fun things teachers do every December because no one's paying attention anyway. Our English teacher announced we were doing a Secret Santa gift exchange during the last week before winter break. $20 limit, anonymous and simple. We all wrote our names on little slips of paper and dropped them into a Santa hat she brought from home. I didn't care who I got. I wasn't popular, but I wasn't unpopular either. I had friends, played a sport, kept my head down. I tried to be nice to everyone because that's just how I was raised. When I pulled the name out, my stomach dropped a little. It was Ethan. That wasn't his real name, but I'm not putting his actual name out there. Everyone knew who he was. He wasn't a loud, disruptive kind of weird. He was quiet, too quiet. He sat in the back of the room, always alone, always wearing the same hoodie even when it was warm. He never talked unless the teacher directly called on him, and even then, he barely made eye contact. People didn't bully him outright, at least not in a visible way, but they avoided him. No one sat next to him unless they had to, no one partnered with him unless the teacher forced it. I felt bad for him. So when I got his name, I told myself I'd actually try. I went to Target with my mom that weekend and picked out a decent gift. A graphic novel I heard was good, a bag of candy, a cheap mug with some dumb quote on it. Nothing special, but not a joke gift either. The day of the exchange, everyone put their gifts on the desk before class. When Ethan got to a seat, he just stared at the bag for a long time before opening it. I watched him from across the room. When he pulled everything out, his face changed. Not a smile exactly, more like relief, like he hadn't expected anything nice. After class, as everyone was packing up, he came up to me. "I know it was you." I kind of froze a little. Yeah. He said, "Thank you, no one's actually ever tried before." I didn't know what to say, so I just said, "No problem, man. Merry Christmas." That should have been it. The next day he sat next to me. He didn't ask, he just dropped his backpack next to my desk and pulled the chair over. I remember feeling weird about it, but I didn't want to be that guy who made it awkward. He started talking, a lot. Not normal conversation. He asked me questions, but they weren't casual. They were specific. Where I lived, what street, what time I usually got home from practice, what games I played, what music I listened to. I answered vaguely. I figured he was just excited someone was being nice to him. Over the next few days, he followed me everywhere. Between classes, to lunch, after school, at least until I left the campus. He laughed at everything I said, even when nothing was funny. If I talked to someone else, he'd just stand there silently watching. My friends noticed. One of my friends at the lunch table said, "Yo, what's up with him?" I said, "He's cool, just lonely." That night, I got a friend request on Snapchat. It was Ethan. I hesitated, then accepted. Again, I didn't really want to be rude. He started snapping me immediately. Selfies, random pictures of his room, screenshots of music he was listening to. I'd reply every once in a while, but I didn't encourage it. Then, he sent me a picture of my house. At first, I thought it was a mistake. It was taken from across the street. I recognized the tree in our front yard, and the angle was unmistakable. I stared at my phone for a long time before responding. "What's this?" He replied almost instantly. "Just walking around. I saw your place." I felt my chest start to hurt. I told myself he probably lived nearby, that it was a coincidence. But the next night, I woke up around 1 a.m. because I got a notification from Snapchat. It was a picture of my bedroom window from outside. I sat up so fast I felt dizzy. I pulled the curtain back just enough to look out. I didn't see anyone. I snapped back, "Dude, why are you outside my house?" He replied, "I just wanted to say hi, you didn't answer earlier." I couldn't fall asleep after that. The next day of school, he acted like nothing happened. He sat next to me, talked about homework, asked if I wanted to hang out over break. I finally told him he was making me feel uncomfortable. He didn't get angry, he looked hurt. He said, "I thought we were friends." The word that stuck with me was friends. I tried to distance myself after that. I stopped replying to his messages, sat somewhere else in class, walked with my friends instead of alone. He didn't stop. He started sending me pictures on Snapchat of me at school, from behind, from across the hallway. One time, from outside a classroom window while I was inside. I confronted him again. "You need to stop, this isn't okay." He just smiled. "I just like knowing where you are. It makes me feel close to you." That's when I went to the counselor. They talked to him, gave him a warning, told him to leave me alone. For about 2 days he did. Then the night before winter break, I heard tapping on my window. I didn't move, I barely breathed. And then my phone went off again, another Snapchat notification. I opened it, it was a picture of my face taken through the window. That's when I lost it. I woke my parents up, and we called the principal. The police came. They found him sitting in our backyard holding his phone. He didn't resist. At school they searched his locker. Inside the film, printed pictures of me, a copy of my schedule, miscellaneous notes about me, where I parked, when I left practice. I think he was expelled. I never saw him again. People ask me if I felt bad. I still don't know how to answer that. Because I didn't treat him badly. I didn't make fun of him. I was just nice. And somehow, that was enough to make me the center of his world. Every Christmas when people talk about Secret Santa, I think about how easily something small can turn into something dangerous.